Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once
You are
again,
listening to
today
I Am
we have
Refocused
another show
Radio
lined up for
with your
y'all. We're gonna
host,
talk to music
Shamaya
artist
Reed.
JL,
This show is
and
designed
he's
to
gonna talk about his
inspire
new
you to live
album,
your purpose
Ride
and
Away.
regain your
This is
focus.
his most
And
recent
now,
work, but we're
here's
gonna
your
learn
host,
about him first.
Shamaya
So
Reed.
welcome, Jay, to the show. Say how you doing.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your show. I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Doing good, sir. So, man, before we talk about your recent project, let's learn a little bit about you, man. Where you from, and how did you get started in the industry?
Thank you for asking. I was born in France, actually, right at the border between France and Switzerland, Geneva, Switzerland, in the Alps. And I went to the music school there, the Conservatory of Music of Geneva. And series of strange events. I took a flight to New York to visit a friend. I auditioned for a band, and they gave me the job. So I stayed, became a citizen, and ever since, just continued on singing, writing songs, playing guitar, and taking a stab at the music industry. Fascinating industry, of course, which has its fabulous ups and downs, and built up a uh, catalog of songs and music that I've released over the years. And of course, looking to get more people to hear about it and hear it. And that's about the life story, if you will, in a nutshell.
And you are a acoustic pop singer songwriter, and for you, that's an interesting story. That you said you came here, it was for a job, right, to the U.S.
Yes, yes. I actually came here to visit a friend. We were in school together,
Okay.
and he was a guitar player as well. And we both played kind of like finger picking stuff. I studied classical guitar. And he turned me on to more like southern finger picking style and blues. And while I was here, a couple of weeks after landing at JFK, I auditioned for this band, and they offered me the job. So I stayed. Yeah.
Man, that's not a bad deal. Was it tough? Basically, I mean, well, how was the transition like? I mean, because now you're here in the US, and you have a job now, and you're with your friend. What was the transition like being here and making this your home?
It was extremely, extremely difficult in many respects because I did not speak English that well. I could understand a little bit better than I spoke, but I have to tell you that immediately upon landing, there's a very big difference between studying English in class in Europe and facing people day in and day out who you listen to them and you go like, what? So it took me a while to tune in. And actually what I used to do was listen to the radio, talk radio all the time, to get used to the accents, to get used to, the way people talk. And some other things were just completely fascinating, right? You're in Europe, you're watching reruns of shows that have long gone off the air in the US, right? But you're watching like Bewitched, or you're watching like all sorts of stuff. And of course, listening to tons and tons of music, and listening to like, blues, rock and roll, Jackson 5, uh, jazz, lots of jazz, right? And so you're used to listening to the language, but it's a different thing to listen through the music and the lyrics in the song that you can always kind of look up somehow, and starting to interact with people at a deli, for instance, or in New York, and so that it takes a little getting used to. But I have to say, people were totally friendly and super welcoming. A big difference. I'm not from a big town in France. Geneva is a fairly small town compared to Paris or London and certainly to New York. And my expectation was like, oh, a big city like New York, that could be, a problem, considering how some folks in Paris can be a little difficult if you're not from there. But actually, it was the total opposite. New Yorkers were just friendly, totally welcoming, and you could ask anybody anything on the street, and never had a bad experience in New York. Where in other places sometimes it can be more, I would say, people don't see that many people, even if it's a fairly big town, and they're kind of like, yeah, okay, why don't you go your way? But in New York, it's been great. It's been great. I loved it, and continue to love it.
Now, I know this is a different question, but it's very interesting in my head. What was your first meal in New York, and did you like it?
Ha! I totally loved it. So it was. I went. My friend actually lived on Staten Island, right? And he was at college there, Wagner College, and I had pizza delivered to the dorm after I connected with him, and it was great because I never had pizza like New York pizza, right? Toppings, I forgot exactly what you ordered, probably pepperoni if I can, but that was amazing. That was like, wow, this is good.
And the reason why I asked that is because I've been to New York twice and their pizza is out of this world. You really can't go wrong in these small mom and pop shop. Is the food is just amazing. Now, as you were living there longer, where you kind of dive into other types of food in New York? And the reason why I asked once again is because
Absolutely.
it's some amazing food out there.
Absolutely. And it's like, okay, then he was like, all right, you got to try Indian food. You got to try, Chinese food. So of course, like in Chinatown, right? I mean, we went through all the ethnic food that you can imagine, and it's just fabulous. It's just great. So yeah, and diners like what they call, or continue to call it, as Greek diners, though there are less and less of them. Um, I mean, the menu on those in those places were like
Yeah.
four large pieces of cardboard bake, right? You could have anything and everything under the sun, and like massive amount of food. Of course, it's not like a small serving. So eventually, I managed to make my way to a French restaurant in New York, right? And I had invited this lady that I met, who actually was working for a record company. And I was like, okay, let's see if I can do some networking. And it was extremely expensive, right? And all I had was a $50 bill. And so it just went to pay for that. That was it. And still, it was kind of a few years ago. So I managed to, like, not order much for me, but make it. And it was good. It wasn't bad. But I was like, wow, what a difference, right? So certain food, it's not like the French food was bad. It was okay. But the point is that, you go into an Indian restaurant or a Chinese restaurant, and you get like this mountain of rice, and you've got all this stuff. I mean, yeah, the food in New York is fabulous, and the experience is fabulous because it's very typical to the cuisine, right? If you go to Third Street or Fourth Street, where there are Indian restaurants, or again Chinatown or any other places, and uptown like the Bronx, right?
Mhm.
And you get refried black beans and these restaurants. Wow, it's great. And of course, Mexican food is just fabulous, and just also, again, the atmosphere is goes with the food. It's not like you're walking into uh, any restaurant, and it seems that to me that more so than anywhere else I've been, uh, it's more like typical to the cuisine, the way they decorate the place, and the people who are there working, than not. And it's a great experience, not just for the food, but also for interacting with folks.
And once again, we're talking to JL and learning about him, not just his music, but him as a person. Now, dive into the music scene. you said your friend brought you there, and you had education going on. You had all this stuff going on. Did you have your guitar, or did you buy a
Yeah,
guitar? How did that work?
yeah. At the time, even on vacation, I would never travel without a guitar of sorts. So I did bring my guitar, and say, hey, there's these notices to audition for bands. Maybe you should do it while you're here. Okay, I'll try it. And as it turned out, there was this really strange situation. Right, I was in Geneva. I went to see this band, and uh, Shaken Street. It's an English, obviously, name, but it's actually a French band at the time. And I'm watching this band in Geneva, and this bunch of punks started spitting on the singer of this lady singing, the lead singer of Shaken Street. So this guy comes out from backstage with a microphone stand and starts swinging the microphone at these spitters. And I'm like, whoa, look at this guy, right? This striking figure, tall guy. And I'm like, okay, I come here months later, audition for this band. They're like, wow, this is great, man. This is cool. This is cool. And the drummer comes to me and says, so where are you from? It's like, I'm from, near Geneva. He goes, oh, my brother was just there on tour. He was the tour manager for Shaken Street. I said, really? Was that the guy who was swinging at spitting on the lead singer? He goes, yeah, that's
Wow,
him. It's my brother.
small world.
And it was like this weirdest connection, right? And here I am trying to express all of this, speaking with a French accent and as best as I could, because the vocabulary was missing, like looking for words. And my friend Jet, the drummer, born in the Bronx and speaking with a Bronx accent, and apparently we could communicate very well. The other two guys in the band were like, yeah, we don't always understand Jet's language sometimes. We don't always understand what he says with his like really thick Bronx accent. But yeah, it was like this 6 degrees of separation minus 2 or 3 degrees, really. And we continued playing on together for a long time. We still connect, but we made a few records together and recorded a bunch of songs. So yeah, weird small world, right?
That's an amazing story, and that's why we like those awesome stories because it shapes everything that the person is. Now, the band, did you end up forming your own band? Because you had numerous of projects that you have released, or were you solo? What was that transition like?
So we played together and made an album with a band that was never released actually. And then we decided to start something together, the drummer and myself, and then we recorded uh, 3 albums under that. And then I continued on and recorded more songs and released them under JL. And mostly because this is another interesting thing is that you do like when you move into a world that is different than where you're born. My real name is JL, but just spelled letter J, letter L. And what happens with that is sometimes people are like, yeah, how do you spell that? Whatever, and I'm like, okay, let me try to spell it out, Jayelle. And some people started calling me Jay Ely. So, sort of kind of accommodate for all the permutations. So it's great, and making music is fantastic in the States or anywhere else. But I'm really enjoying being in New York.
Well, now that we know the rich history of how you became a New Yorker, let's talk about your recent project, Ride the Wave. When was that release, and what is the story behind that?
So it was released on August 27th, a little less than a month ago. And actually, my friend, the drummer, Jet, is also a photographer, and he takes pictures of surfers off of the Jersey shore. And they don't have massive waves, but they have nice little waves coming in. And he takes these great pictures. He's on Instagram, Jet TT 1209, and they're really fantastic. And I was looking at these pictures. He posts a couple of times a week, every now and then, and at the same time, we're all hit by this tsunami of a wave, the pandemic, right? So at the beginning of this year, I wrote out a whole bunch of songs on lockdown, like the rest of the world, and or most of it. And thinking, it's pretty much life. You get to ride the waves as they come. Sometimes they're nice, right? And sometimes they're more difficult. And certainly the pandemic is a difficult wave to ride, but we have no choice, right? And it's what happens with a surfer, right? You jump on the board, you ride the wave that comes at you. Sometimes it's a nice one and you're having a lot of fun, and they all have their challenges. And sometimes they can throw you off. you get knocked out, or hopefully not too badly. So it stemmed from that, and exploring what else have I been doing, during the lockdown, and spending quite a lot of time on social networks, which reconnected me to the producer, Caleb KBC Sherman, who produced the album. He's in Nashville and I'm in New York City, so we worked remotely, and he did a fabulous job with the songs. He picked, the 12 songs that are on the record based on what I had sent him of just acoustic guitar and singing, one voice, one guitar, and really arranged the music super well. It's really a pleasure to listen to it. Of course, it's mine, so I would say that, but it's really, really a lot of fun. It's full of energy and craziness. It's really great. And this is, some songs are about TikTok, not necessarily from the lyrics mentioning TikTok, but simply because you can thumb through so much, on that particular app. I've also spent a lot of time in front of the television, and I was watching the Vampire Diaries out of all shows, but I really, really liked Nina Dobrev, the actress. And I was thinking about this because I was listening to your interview of Sam Black, and he wrote a song about Lisa Loeb, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a song, Tequila Kiss, on the album that I wrote about Nina Dobrev. And she does wild things. She travels around the world. She swims with sharks. She, full of energy, perhaps a bit, addicted to some adrenaline rush every now and then. I don't know. I can't speak to that. But she's really, really good. And I follow her on Instagram. And that kind of energy that people have, right, inspires people to write music and write songs in the case of Sam and myself. But it's really the album is a collection of songs inspired by these activities that under other circumstances I would not have spent so much time engaging in, right? I wouldn't have spent so much time on TikTok. That generated a song called Miss Mess. The first single we released from the album, and others that are based really on what you get to do when you can't go out so much, and you certainly can't hang out and perform at clubs. And that's just the way that wave has been. And you ride it. And you write it in my way. I'm not on a surfboard. I've got a guitar and my imagination, and of course a pen and a pad of paper. I still use that before I enter things into the computer.
Yeah, I like that concept, right? The wave, the whole meaning. I mean, sometimes when people are on a show and they talk, I'm just like seeing a movie play out in my head. I'm seeing people surfing, I'm seeing a photographer, I'm seeing all this stuff. And the fact that it ties back to life and just living and hearing how you got to New York and your experience with cultures and food and all that. How important is it for you as an artist to express yourself and use music as a tool to bring people together?
It's not only important, but there's nothing I can do to stop it. Talk about another way, right? I mean, it's not like it's an easy business by any stretch of the imagination, right? And I have not succeeded in the measures that financially, or it's just it's a struggle, and it's okay. But there's also another part to that, is that I can't stop it. I've tried, on occasion to say, okay, that's it. I'm putting the guitar away. I'm not touching that thing. That's it. I'm done. But actually, I can't stop it. So it's like it comes. These things flow out. You watch something, you interact with someone, and it's like your brain goes, and here comes the song, right? And the other part to that, it's not like it comes out in a neat package and it's all done, right? Not to me, not for me. It's like little pieces come out, and these little pieces are nagging, continuously nagging, right? You just like ride the wave started, and it's like, okay, all right, maybe I can write a song with that. And it's like you wake up at 3 a.m. and it's like, oh yeah, that thing, it just doesn't want to let you go until it's written out. And it's sort of like, it's important, obviously, but it's also impossible to say, that's it. I'm going to use another mode of expression. I'm taking on some other art form, or doing something else with my time to express myself and bring people together. It's just what comes out. I don't have that kind of control, apparently. Or it's an addiction that I don't understand. So there you have it. It's just what I have to work with.
And once again, talking to JL, you go to his website, jlsongs.com. And as we wrap up, first I want to say it's very awesome to hear stories like this, because stories like this is very genuine and very pure. And one last question I'll ask you is, when you have what you have, music, your guitar, your songs, what are you hoping people will learn from you as a person and how you're creating your art with music?
From me, I'm secondary. What really to me is most important is that I pass on a great burst of energy to them. That if they take the time at some point and have the chance to listen to the music, that they go like, wow, that made me feel good. That give me some boost of energy, chills down my spine, goosebumps, lifted me up, right? That's made my day a little easier, put a smile on my face. Um, if they're more curious about me and what else is there, that's fantastic, and I welcome all that, and anyone who wants to discuss it. And thank you for asking these great questions. Your interviews are always so like in depth and fun. But I would say that my prime goal is that I can pass on with music the way others have passed on to me with music. When I listen to a great song or a great performance, and I go, wow, this is good. I can conquer the world now. I hope to share that, and that people will get that from me, and get to boil it to your question, a sense that I'm a hopeful guy who passes on good vibes and energy, and hope for the future for everyone. And hopefully things turn out okay, and the wave calms down, and the next one is a fun wave, not one that keeps us locked down and at risk. And of course, we don't want anybody to suffer and be in pain, but there are going to be some unfortunate consequences from this wave. Let's face it.
Once again, talking to JL, and man, I love metaphors, man, and the whole part of the wave and just everything you said throughout the whole interview is really sound, very solid. And I might have to steal some of these ideas from you and share it with people
Please,
because
please.
very wisdom oriented talking from your story. And I definitely appreciate that for the audience.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and asking the right question and the great questions, because none of this storytelling would come out without, you directing the flow.
Well, once again, true honor having you, JL, right here on Iron Refocus Radio. Before we let you go, what would you like to tell the audience?
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Without the audience, there's not much that would be happening. And, whatever you can do to stay safe, the rest of us will be patient until it's time to reconnect in person and obviously in clubs or, on stages. But certainly, thank you for listening. That's really, really meaningful, super meaningful. For writers and singers and musicians.
Once again, JL right here on Iron Refocus Radio. Go check out his music right now. You can go visit his website. That is jlsongs.com. Once again, that's jlsongs.com. Thank you, Jay, for being on today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.